If the GOP insists hard enough, their proposal should just become the law. All right, joining me now to talk about all of this is Congressman Jim McDermott of Washington. Congressman, I think, as you just heard, I think we're having the wrong conversation in the first place. So I'm going to keep it real with you right from the get-go. Whose fault is it that we are seeing a tiny little compromise on how much we cut spending from Republicans as a victory instead of the gigantic loss, which I think it is?
Well, I think the president and the Democrats never should have agreed to extending the Bush tax cuts for any extended period of time at all. We made the deficit worse at that point. What we're doing now with the Tea Party, these are a group of people elected not to govern, not to understand government, not to figure out how it works, but simply to come in here and tear it apart. And what you're going to see when we have a government shutdown here in a week or so, that like children, they're going to find out that what they've been told, that government has a role and responsibility, they're going to find out that the American people are really going to be angry when they can't get into their national parks, they can't get into their museums, they can't get their passports, they can't get all the myriad of services that they get from government. The Tea Party would have you believe that public servants do no good, no place, no time, and that we could do without all of them. And that's simply not true. And we're going to find out here very shortly because we're going to hit the wall.
So, Congressman, let me ask you, you seem like you're pretty sure there's going to be a shutdown. I mean, there's talk today about how Boehner's reaching out to the Blue Dog Democrats and he might strike a deal with them. So do you think there's going to be a compromise, or do you think we're definitely headed towards a shutdown?
Well, Mr. Boehner has a terrible problem. He's got 85 people in his caucus who just simply don't understand what this is about. They are neophytes, all of them. They think they know everything. They're just like little kids who think they know how things work, and they don't. So Boehner's now got to leave them by the side of the road and reach over to the Democrats. And ultimately, when he puts together, he'll say, well, I've got a bipartisan proposal, but it won't go through the Senate. So then they're going to try and blame it on the Senate. The Senate Democrats killed a bipartisan agreement from the House. I think we are headed for a terrible mess here in the next few days.
Yeah, look, if the Democrats lose that public relations battle, I'm going to lose my mind. I mean, right now you got Cantor, you saw in that clip, and you got all these guys saying, oh, it's the Democrats' fault. They're the ones who are going to force the shutdown. That seems mental to me, but of course, most of the Washington media takes it seriously. How do you fight back against that?
Well, Mr. Cantor has been running the Republican follies in the House now for 13 weeks. You know, we read the Constitution and we passed all kind of silly bills that had no impact. We haven't passed a single bill related to a job. Then he comes out here and says, if the House passes this bill, it will become law. Well, we have to explain to him how a bill has to pass both houses of Congress before it can be presented to the president. He doesn't even understand the basic mechanisms of government. It really is a classic farce going on in the Republican caucus.
But Congressman McDermott, let me challenge you on one premise. You know, you're saying that the Tea Party guys are kids and they don't get it, et cetera. But hasn't their intransigence worked? I mean, like I said, initially the Republicans just wanted $32 billion in cuts. Tea Party forced them to 61, and the Democrats, for some reason, went along, and now it looks like they're going to get more than $32 billion in cuts. So didn't the Tea Party stance in some way work? And didn't the Democrats enable it by constantly compromising and not drawing the line?
You know, I'm a child psychiatrist and I've dealt with children my whole life. And there comes a point at which you tell a child, don't do that, it's going to hurt you. And you say, don't do that, it's going to hurt you. Don't do that, it's going to hurt you. Ultimately, they get hurt. And then they cry and say, you know, oh. Well, that's what you're going to hear around here when the Republicans, Tea Party people actually get what they're wishing for, because you cannot run government on 2 weeks at a time. Nobody in business runs 2 weeks at a time. Nothing in the world works 2 weeks at a time. And they are simply strangling the economy and destroying the job opportunities for their own people, and the people back home know it. And you're going to start to see the reaction. You're seeing it in the polls that you've already shown. I think it's only a matter of time till the people get onto them.
All right, Congressman Jim McDermott, thank you for your time this evening. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, now let me bring in MSNBC political analyst Richard